Welcome back, everybody. This is the Brian Thomas Podcast, episode 4 with Hayden. Hayden blessed me with presence. Hayden blessed me with connection. I can't even describe it when we were shooting together with the visuals. It was just incredible being non-binary, queer, trans, and trying to make it in the world of entertainment with all of this. It was just really incredible to hear the struggles and the successes that Hayden is now having. So you're gonna wanna check it out. My producer said I can't clap. I like clapping for some reason.
I am originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I now live in Brooklyn. And my childhood was interesting. I'm a part of a pretty dysfunctional family. My childhood was, there was a very little space for me to, I think, just discover my truth. And I had a lack of language in a lot of ways. Just a lack of language, I think.
So let it pause for a second after each question. I like the silence, it's good. Let me double check the eyes and make sure everything's in focus.
Open them.
Right, look for that little red dot.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
So the lack of language that you were talking about, is that the reason why dance and choreography inspires you?
Yes, choreography and dance has inspired me, I think, because it did provide me the space. And I think that movement and dance is a language in and of itself, which has just been really cathartic for me, and has sort of just held this safe space. It's been this safe space for me.
So lack of language when you were a child, can you define what is that all about, and what is that lack of language all about?
I needed language for a lot of feelings that I had and experiences that I had when I was young. I later in life came out as gay, as queer, as transgender, and I struggled a lot as a child, and I always felt like something was sort of inherently wrong with me, which I now know is not the truth. But I didn't have language for so many things that I was feeling, and I actually turned to a lot of things as a form of escapism, to avoid those feelings. And I have struggled with addiction because of this, and the lack of language and the fear of taking up space and not being able to take up space how I believe that I'm meant to. And it's been a journey. It has been hard, but I don't know that I would change it.
All right. So
Are my eyes open? Is this okay?
Yeah, you look great on film.
Do I?
Oh my God, yeah. I love when your arms come in the shot too.
Okay.
I love seeing. Just be careful you don't touch up here because the mic is there.
Normally, when I talk, I'm like...
No, I like that.
Okay.
Use that, but just don't touch here, that's all. Because the mic is there. It's pretty sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
all right. So different paths for different people, different languages. So tell me more about your process of transitioning.
Ooh, yeah, the process of transitioning. So this first began towards the end of my addiction. I sort of hit a bottom And this looked like a very spiritual bottom for me. I had been spiritually bankrupt for many years, and I believe that it is a higher power, something greater than me, told me that I had to get sober. And through sobriety, I finally had the headspace to access things more clearly. And I came out as transgender within the first few months of being sober. And I was finally surrounded by a queer community that was also sober, and a transgender community. Just they modeled so much bravery and courage and authenticity, and I finally saw people that I identified with and who affirmed me and saw me. I felt seen for the first time in my whole life, I think. These people said my pronouns before I was even comfortable with them, and I changed my name. I changed my name within the first few months of sobriety, and to just reclaim my identity has been life-changing. And I don't know if that journey ever ends, but the transition looks like it's not just for me personally. I can't speak for the entire transgender community, but for me, it's not been from female to male, but a female to non-binary existence. So I use they, them pronouns, and I exist in sort of a either or neither, just sort of filled with energy and stars, and it's a journey. Yeah, and it's never ending.
All right, so now more than ever, diversity and inclusion truly matters. So the media.
You said diversity and inclusion.
Diversity and
Yes.
matters. Do you see yourself now being represented in media?
Do I see myself being represented in the media as a transgender person? I think that things are starting to change. I think that the revolution has begun. I think that people are becoming braver in the risks they're willing to take, and the people they're willing to hire to give representation to all different types of identities. And in the past, I think there have been very specific representations of gay people, queer people, transgender people, sort of just these like really niche kind of one-minded experiences, and often kind of represented, I think, in media as almost a comic relief sometimes. And usually in movies, you see like the gay people kind of, it's like a sad story about them, or it's like very foreign, these queer relationships in the media, and they usually end up dying or being killed off of a show or a movie. So I hope to take up space, whether it's the dance industry or the film industry or in any way, and just hopefully give representation to a more non-binary existence, and just so that people watching can see themselves and see that there is space for them.
So let's talk about within the LGBTQI+ community. Have you ever felt being marginalized and having without the voice within your own community?
I have felt marginalized within my own community. I see this mostly, I think it is not an intentional thing that is done sometimes. I think it is a lack of awareness, perhaps a lack of education, sometimes just not enough want or desire to change semantics or language that is used. And without even knowing, sometimes this can completely erase someone's identity and existence, whether it's in any space, but in a classroom. If you are not aware of gendered language or the language that you're choosing to use, it can make people feel marginalized and like there's no space for them. So what I often experience, and I think what, the hard switch is the language is very binary. And I think in a lot of ways, not just with gender, but we live in a binary world, a binary society. And when that is so in these spaces, where do we go? Where do the non-binary people go? I've often, just in a dance class, for example, if there are, the boys come out in this group or the girls come out in this group, I panic. I have this initial feeling of panic within me, and I dissociate. I leave my body, and I feel overwhelmed and anxious, and like I want to leave the space because I feel like there is no longer space for me. What I've done in the past, I will go in both groups, and then I am very tired. And then it's like if there are people in the space who haven't perhaps come out yet, it's very confusing and it's stressful and it just creates this anxiety and there's no space. Yeah, so just one of the ways that I think I have felt marginalized within this community, or just when you see a group of people, hey ladies, hey girls, the honorifics, people especially are not aware of on the street, in passing, people I know, my family, ma'am, sir, miss, just strips me of my identity. And it's sometimes I don't have the wherewithal, or I'm not in the right headspace to come out to everybody that I see or meet or come into contact with. That was a long-winded answer.
For those who does not know anything about non-binary, explain that to them. Explain to us. What is non-binary?
Mm-hmm.
This is your chance.
This is my chance. There is so much. So I think, I actually came out to my family through an email. And I tried to provide many definitions for them, a lot of research, a lot of resources. So the word transgender is an umbrella term. This is not just one identity. This is an umbrella term, which I also believe that non-binary falls under. And this encompasses millions of different gender identities. Even being non-binary, there's not one way to be non-binary. So this, in another maybe way to say this, is gender non-conforming, going against what we have been taught and the systems we have been, conditioned by and restricted by. It's just this desire to break those boundaries and not conform. And it's brave, it's hard, it's something that people aren't familiar with or comfortable with yet, but I think that is changing. And there is, like I said, lots of ways to be non-binary. There's no prerequisites. There's not a way to look non-binary. I think that's a misconception that you have to look androgynous or a certain type of way, and you can look any way. Anyone you see on the street could be non-binary, and gender expression is something completely different than gender identity. So this is, when someone says they are transgender, they do not identify with the sex assigned to them at birth. So there is sex assigned to you at birth, there is gender identity, there is gender expression. And these are all very different things. And then there's sexuality, which is also a separate, different thing. So non-binary is an identity, is something experienced internally, different than how I express myself with my clothes, or my name, or my pronouns, or my makeup, or my hair. It's very internal. Yeah.
All right, with that being said.
That's a hard question.
That was great, though. So success. Let's talk about your success. We talked about the struggles as a dancer, as Hayden.
Mm-hmm.
Give me examples of success and triumphs that you have experienced so far throughout this journey.
Is my lipstick smeared everywhere? I'm good?
Well, it looks good from here.
All right. I'm so glad y'all are like, okay. If I'm defining success, this to me is not accolades. This is not fame. That is, I think, those are sort of defined by capitalism and how we have commodified art, how we have commodified the things that we share in order to make profit and gain recognition and fame, essentially. And once you achieve that or get to the top, or you are famous and you are recognized, where is there to go? Where do you go from there? Because to me, success is ending up in spaces where I am inspired, where there's collaboration, where we are, through art, changing perspective, embodying different perspectives that can hopefully be experienced by the masses. And I believe that art is the forefront of change. I believe that dance has existed for so long and has been used as celebration and as a fight, as a rebellion. And that's where this comes from. So if I can honor my ancestors and honor the people who came before me, who have really accelerated this change, that is success for me. And if I can reach people in that way. So as long as I continue to manifest these spaces and end up in these spaces, I feel that's success for me. And just, I think what I've experienced is that I have ended up in those spaces, and I have been supported by many people, just as I have reclaimed my identity, which has very much shifted my art and what I am creating as well.
That's a very deep meaning of success. I love it.
I
Whoa.
was writing all that down. I was like, oh my God.
I love it.
Because when you said in your space collaborate, I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing. This is
That's
amazing.
amazing.
It is.
I feel successful now.
Yeah.
I love your
You
definition.
are.
Your definition.
I know.
It's not your resume. Thank you for that.
So, how do you envision yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now. That's always hard for me. Okay, how do I envision myself 5 years from now? I struggle to look past today because sometimes when I do, I experience a lot of overwhelm. But I do think it's important to sort of name the things you would like to manifest, right? So in a few years from now, in 5 years from now, I hope to have continued on this path of growth and progression and process in a way that is authentic. I hope to continue to end up in spaces that I am meant to. I believe that what you seek seeks you. What is meant to find you will never miss you. And I have to believe that. And the no's, I think, are maybe not yets, or they weren't supposed to find you. 5 years from now, though, I hope to be creating. I hope to be sharing, whether that's dance or acting or singing. I love to be on camera. Yeah.
All right. So we talked about the present. We talked a little bit about the future.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit, sort of, about past. We're gonna go back a little bit to the past. So imagine your 10-year-old self looking at you right now. What advice or words of wisdom do you want to tell that 10-year-old Hayden?
If I was looking at little Hayden or a 10-year-old Hayden, I would say to this little human that is so confused and lost in the world, that it will get better, that you will not feel like this forever, that you don't know the things you're going to experience. You have not met all the people who are going to love you, and you will meet many. And you are not a girl. And what you think your name is doesn't fit you. And you will find the right one, and you will find a body and an identity that fits you perfectly. And I know you can't see that right now, but hang on and stay. And I know sometimes it's hard for you to stay and to respect your body and to stay, but stay. Brighter days are ahead.
I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I have. Please DM or share your thoughts with me in the world. Next episode is Haitian board dancer Fabricio. Incredible dancer. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Call me. But not after 12, because I'm usually sleeping.
I come from a country where it's run by Black people. And so when I came to America, I had a pretty good knowledge of who I am as a Black person in the world. And so I remember one of the first times I was told, go back to Africa, I was like, I'm not from Africa, I'm from Haiti. And also Africa is a continent and there are multiple countries in Africa. So I don't know what you mean by that.
We're good?
Yes. This is going to be Fabricio.
Okay, now we can turn the record off. I know you're trying to get me in between. You're trying to get me looking silly.